ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.
Welcome, everybody. It is another episode 3 of the Entrepreneur's Journey. As many of you know, my name is Joseph Jaffe. I am still not famous, and why would I be when I could be a professional implementer with EOS? I've started every single show that I've done this year with what I call my why statement. My why statement is as follows. As a teacher, facilitator, and a coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever changed. What an opportunity! What an absolute gift to be able to help people, help first, and move people, because so many people are stuck in life. They're stuck. And what does it mean to be stuck? Sometimes what it means is we're just not moving forward, or we're that duck that seems like everything is just awesome above the fold, above the waterline, but below we're pedaling like crazy just to make sure that we don't drown. Well, there's got to be more to life than just not dying, right? There's got to be more to life than surviving. It's got to be all about thriving. One of the things that I wanted to start doing in this new format, the Entrepreneur's Journey, which draws its inspiration from Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, because, at the end of the day, it's not so much that we are heroes. I mean, we are heroes of our own journey. And you know what? It is tough to be an entrepreneur. It sucks oftentimes to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of failure. But ultimately, we have a gift to be able to help others. And so I decided that I wanted to maybe just share a quote or an insight from me as a coach every episode. And this is today's one. Don't beat yourself up. There are plenty of others who will gladly do it for you. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Be able to actually, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself credit for everything you've done. Something that I spoke about earlier today is this idea about, instead of being the Grateful Dead, this is about the Grateful Down, right? We covet up, but we should express gratitude down. We should be grateful for what we have and what we've achieved and how far we've come, as opposed to always lamenting and being able to beat ourselves up for all the things we didn't do, or all the things we could have done, or all the things we should have done. Well, one of the things I will never beat myself up about is the fact that I met the coach's coach, as I call him. When I went through my boot camp, I met Alex Freytag, and I told him there are going to be a lot of surprises. So the first surprise is, this is what I like to do, which is I use a little bit of AI to basically render my guest the way that the machine, the intelligent machine, would see him. And this is, he's like he's like a bit of a secret agent. He is what I call the coach's coach. Alex is the creator of ProfitWorks, a business coaching and training company focused on helping entrepreneurial leaders, teams simplify, clarify, and achieve their vision. With decades of experience helping hundreds of entrepreneurs get everything they want from their businesses, he's recognized as an expert in the field of leadership, team alignment, culture development, and employee engagement. As an expert EOS implementer, EOS community leader, co-founder of the EOS conference, and author of Vision Works, ProfitWorks, and his new book, Stretch, Not Snap, Alex is devoted to helping entrepreneurs develop cultures of employees who think and act like owners. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. That's fantastic. Appreciate that. A nice AI there. Maybe a little cooler than I am, but I appreciate that. Very nice.
Maybe it's not AI. Maybe that actually is. Look, all I can tell you is every time I ask AI to render me I look like a deranged mad scientist. So I've just stopped trying to make AI cannot make me pretty.
Well, it's going to keep trying. I guarantee that. But it's good to see you again. Thank
Yeah,
you
it
for
is.
having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Alex. I'm going to put you in the driver's seat over there. There's a
Okay.
lot for us to cover. I've decided you've inspired me. We're going to start a new segment called "Do You Really Know Your Coach?" You think you know your coach, but do you really know your coach? And
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you remember my Colby, but my Colby is I'm a 3385. So
Okay. Very similar. Yeah.
so I basically do stuff and then and then afterwards I regret what I did and go, why did I do that? Why didn't I think it through? But I'm not going to
Yeah.
regret the segment. So
Oh,
Alex,
good, good. Yeah.
they think they know you, but do they really know you? So
All right.
uh,
Let's do this.
three uniques, three uniques. You didn't even tell me. You wouldn't tell me what they meant. So you left it up to AI to basically create renditions. By the way, according to AI, it's not Hollywood, it's HOV wood. So I'm not really sure
HOV.
what that means, but
That's high occupancy vehicle, maybe. And
something
it's
like that. So
WAD. Oh, that's funny. So
tell us about what is the LA connection as far as your three uniques are concerned.
So the backstory is, if you think about what we do as EOS implementers, right? We're up in front of this leadership team. And you remember through boot camp, we talk about it as like being on stage, and there's a bit of improv, right? And so when I was in high school, I did a lot of plays. I was Felix Unger in The Odd Couple. I was Jamie Thurber in Jabberwocky, and then several other plays. I really enjoyed being up on stage and doing that. And so I had somewhat of a false start out of college. In 91, I was a psychology major, which also plays into what we do today. But in 93, I packed up my car. I was in Connecticut at the time and drove to LA to pursue an acting career. And so when I got there, I joined the Groundling Theater and I did improv for about a year out there and absolutely loved it. And was trying to get an agent, trying to do commercials and all that kind of stuff. And about 10 months in, I was like, oh, I can't. I got more to give to the world than this. And it wasn't obviously clicking. I know people that have been out there for years, and it's just so that's the LA kind of story. So I packed all my stuff up and moved back to Columbus, and thankfully the recession was kind of over, and I got a job, and that's the LA connection. So I have a warm place in my heart for it. I do not regret it at all. It was like the right time to do it. And now when I look backwards, as Steve Jobs says, and kind of connect the dots, I see how that improv plays into what I love doing today, whether it's with the EOS conference or our work, with leadership teams. So that's LA.
I love it, and there's a very obvious follow-up question or follow-up idea, which is the art of improv, living in the age of improv. How
Yeah.
important is it for a coach to be able to adapt, be agile, think on their feet? And there's an interesting thing because at EOS we talk about the concept of purity, which is you have your
Yes.
guide, you are taught a certain way, but then there's the
Yeah.
ability sometimes to go off script. So I'd love for you to chat about the idea of the power, the art of improv, and when and why, it's important to be able to essentially go off script.
Oh, I love that. It's a great question. And you may know this. The general rule of improv is yes and, right. If somebody suggests that you have a balloon, you're like, yeah, I just got it this morning, and happy birthday. It's like, yeah, I can't believe how young I am. You just yes and everything, right? And so in a session with a client, when we're in this coaching mode, we're facilitating, we're teaching, we're listening, we're observing, and so the yes and becomes a mindset that I think it's just naturally have, where I'm not going to negate what somebody says. like kind of where's the bit of truth in what they're saying, and kind of build on it. And so from your Colby comment as well, I'm a 3494. Our ability to sort of love the brainstorming, love the creativity of the different ideas that might come from different leadership team members allows us to be almost a facilitator of the improv, but not owning it and driving it as in charge of it, but really seeing it, the structure that it is that it creates to get the team to the other side of some issue that they're discussing. So I think it's very valuable.
3494.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize there was a Connecticut connection as well.
Yeah, it was brief. It was the first sort of job I got. It wasn't easy for me. I went to Chicago first and was searching for a job in 91, 92, and got a job in Connecticut, moved all my stuff there, and I was there for about less than a year, and then in a sales capacity of a struggling company, and didn't work out. So that's when I went to LA. So I was in Fairfield, Connecticut, lived on Fairfield Beach Road, just if you know that, right near Westport, and worked on Post Road. Loved being close to the city, and had a lot of friends sort of in the area. So it was a great experience, but didn't last very long. So
well, anytime you're back, the door is always open. Being in Fairfield, Connecticut myself. What about the other part of it? This idea of going off script, this idea of being able to know when you need to not necessarily throw all caution to the wind, but when you actually have to be able to truly be able to, follow your gut and make a decision that does oftentimes mean venturing into the unknown.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So one of my coaches, whose name is Michael Alasso, he taught me this phrase, which I love, which is structure, freeze, creativity. And so, Joe, when we are as an implementer and we write that agenda on the board from check-in down to conclude, that's essentially a structure, but there's no times on there. There's no breaks on there. We do it when we need to, but that structure frees our creativity to be able to listen to the room and go where the client needs us to go at that, whatever time that is. And so most of the time we are following that structure pretty closely from a purity standpoint. But to your point, from an improv perspective, we need to be able to have that flexibility to say, and I can remember one client was in here and the leadership team was in here, and one of the leaders pulled into the parking lot, but then she texted and said, I can't do this. I gotta take another job. And so immediately the owner went out to the parking lot, said, let's just talk for a little bit. And she was able to bring her in. And then we just talked about the topic, what's going on. And it was a financial decision and all this. So she said, well, I'll match that. I need you to be in this seat, and it's going to be your core values fit, and you're such a great part of this team. And so it had nothing to do with my agenda. We needed to go there. So I facilitated that conversation, and she stayed the day, and we, did all the things we need to do as implementers to make sure they leave with a clear vision, and that they had accountability, discipline, and as a healthy, functional, cohesive team. So it was the flexibility that we built into that allows us to be great coaches. And it's a sort of an endless journey to being masterful at this, I'm finding, which is great. So I'm always learning as well, watching the clients and listening and trying to think of the right question to ask that maybe prompts a different type of conversation with the client. So, but there have been a handful of those where I really had to be comfortable going off script and do it for the service of the client, and not be so married to the purity of the agenda. So
absolutely loves that concept of structure frees creativity, but in context of the art of improv. Well, I was able to improv with LA. I wonder if I'll be able to improv with the next. All you gave me was James Dean, and so AI decided to fuse to basically Brundle fly you to. So this is Alex Freytag. I'm not sure which one is James Dean and which one is Alex Freytag, but I can see the resemblance.
So here, the story here is for some reason I had a fascination with James Dean. He was from Indiana. He was an actor. moved out to LA, did, I think 3 movies. And, but I had a couple of books on him, and that were, wasn't much written about him, but, had seen, Rebel Without a Cause, and really connected with that movie a number of times. And, as well as the 2 others. And, in high school, I was doing a lot of silk screening and watercolors and oil painting and I was a big art fan and loved the arts. And so I developed this image of James Dean that was kind of a silhouette almost, and put it on t-shirts. And it was just kind of this cool look of his head, and you could tell who it was. There's no words on it at all, and kids loved him. And I was selling them out of my locker, and I got some friends at other schools to sell them, and it was kind of my first entrepreneurial bite. And I was like, this is really fun to have sort of freedom and creativity and something that really, people respond to and are excited about. And so I developed a sort of a Warhol style print with all these different colors on it, the same image, and it was in art shows and recognized. And I really was like, it was fun. It was really fun for me. And I kind of mothballed that. But it was that bite, that entrepreneurial sort of thing that got me early in my, in my life. And so I reflect back on it and think that's where I first sort of discovered this entrepreneurial itch. And sort of interestingly, my art teacher just celebrated about 50 years at school. So I think he's, in his early 70s. He was there when he's young. And so I went to my school to appreciate him with a large group of people, and they had somewhat of an art show, and they had reprinted the James Dean t-shirts and were handing them out to everybody, which was just so cool to see. So it was very emotional for me. And it just was it was something that blended my love of art, my love of entrepreneurialism, and the creativity into one kind of piece. So as I look back and we put together our stories, that was a big piece of that. And so it has a nice thread for me, so to speak. And so anyway, that's the James Dean sort of connection.
All right, James, yeah. Jimmy Freytag, I get it. So is this part of your, we do at EOS, we have a 1-minute story. And
yes.
Is this part of your unique story, your journey?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I'm definitely not gonna reverse the roles and put my coach on the spot and say, but I would love, but I do have a question for you, which is,
sure.
It almost sounds like an obvious one, Alex, but how important is it for an entrepreneurial coach to have been an entrepreneur themselves, to have that story, that unique story of highs and lows, successes and failures, and ultimately that connection, that ability to empathize, relate, and connect, and reflect and mirror back to a client?
Oh, absolutely. And you said it right there, Joe. It's like when we're starting the relationship, starting the journey with somebody who's perhaps read Traction or they read Get a Grip, and they're anxious. It takes courage to kind of jump into running your business on EOS. Our experience, having number one, done that leap, but also having been in the shoes of somebody who's taken a lot of risk, failed, and struggled as most of us have through our entrepreneurial journey, I think is incredibly valuable, because that way we see with the eyes of a sympathetic or empathetic coach, and we understand some of the mindsets and the places that the entrepreneurial brain can go, from depression to high highs and so forth. And so I think it's really important, because we're in that room with them. We're on their team. We're part of their team. And so having been there and done that, it really helps sort of congeal the team spirit while we're on the team for that day that we're together. So really powerful. Absolutely.
I like this concept of the entrepreneurial brain. It almost it seems like we need to be able to dissect that brain, but thanks to you, I ended up with Rob Dubé on my show, and on my other show, because I don't do enough.
Right.
And Rob and Gino Wickman just wrote a new book called Shine, and
awesome.
I want to just play you, because you talk about the entrepreneurial brain. I want to just play you a 1-minute highlight, and then we can discuss that.
Are you in control?
Right.
You think you are, but you really aren't. None of us are. We're not in control of anything. So let go. Okay? Because the tighter you hold on, the harder it is. We write about a friend of ours named Justin Breen, who works with entrepreneurs, and made a comment to us that he had yet to meet an entrepreneur who hasn't experienced at least one of the following: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, heightened levels of anxiety, depression, traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. And Gino and I added a fifth one: addiction. Okay, so
bingo. Oh, sorry, I just hit bingo on my card. That was, what do I win, Rob? What do I win?
You're not the only one who reacts that way, by the way.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
So I'm hoping you're not going to say bingo.
No, but I read Shine this past weekend. I got it on Thursday. I know it's still in pre-order stage, but it's awesome. And I sent Gino just a quick note and just said, dude, this is awesome. Thank you for writing it. And it just resonated with me, and Gino's done such a great job sort of helping a lot of us, hundreds of thousands of us, sort of master the outer world with our business and people and, right people, right seats and all these pieces. And to go in and start to serve us with helping us start to master our inner world is really powerful, very, very valuable for all of us, because we have, we're wired a little differently. A book by Brackman named Driven gets into more of the chemical side of what's going on with ADHD and so forth. And it's wiring that's a little bit different. And so I've experienced some of it with a prior business partner who is bipolar, and there was addiction there, but fascinating visionary. And I loved the guy and learned so much from him. So as you said at the very beginning of this, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and nothing's new. And to Rob's point, just let go. There is no mountain. You better enjoy the journey while you got it. So
I had a session with a client last week, and and I sensed the energy was dropping, and I said to him afterwards, the integrator, I said to him, I wanted to actually talk about the energy in the room, but then I was worried that that people might think it was a little woo-woo, was what I used.
Right.
And he said, well, Joe, I wish you had, because I'm actually a little woo-woo myself. And this is an ex-military guy. I was like, you're the last person I would have ever thought was a bit woo-woo. But we talk about open and honest and, and EQ and love and health. And I mean, I'm so changed and altered by this experience in the best possible way that I sometimes wonder if I'm becoming too vulnerable. Can you become too vulnerable?
There is too vulnerable. I mean, you look at it as a continuum or a spectrum, and the probably the healthy parts in the middle of that, and so the extremes. It depends perhaps on the authenticity of the vulnerability, but there's a time and a place, with what you share and how deep you go, and how long you spend talking about it. When we talk about check-in with a quarterly or an L10, level 10 meeting, when they have their weekly 90-minute meetings, check-in is sharing something that's hidden with your leadership team members, your team. So you bring it out into the open. And so from hidden to open is creating trust, because you get to know somebody at a deeper level. When trust is strong and always getting stronger, and Covey calls it like a bank account, you'd make deposits. The depth of those shares are totally up to you. And if you keep it at a very surface level, they're not going to get to know you as well as if you go a little bit deeper. But there is a time and a place. And so oversharing or not weeping uncontrollably just to say that I'm vulnerable, those kind of things. And so it's important from the standpoint of the work that we're doing, because when the team has high trust, they're able to really have healthy conflict, as you know, and go deeper into getting issues solved and so forth, setting them up and knocking them down with a lot of truth and a lot of trust and got each other's back kind of stuff. So, but yes, to your point, we got to be careful of that. And then as implementers, it's not really about us, it's about the team. So I'm kind of like a little bit on the periphery, almost like a video camera, but I'm also popping in and being part of the team as well. So we don't have all the answers. And I think that's important for the client to recognize that. We're facilitators. We're trying to make it easy for the team to get to conclusion, get to resolve.
Does this mean, for example, just a quick, does this mean that the implementer in the check-in, and this is quite specific and technical, shouldn't be open and honest and vulnerable, or should be in this particular case?
Oh, should be, because the better they get to know you, the more the room over the 7 hours plus or minus an hour is unified. And I think that's really important. So you don't want to pull your punches, but you just don't want to make it all about Alex or all about Joe in that check-in. Share things about your kids or your spouse or whatever it might be. Could be vacation or something you're feeling. Could be something recent. So they know where your headspace is a little bit, but they're also they need us to do our job. So we can't be a wreck.
Together. Cut the trauma dumping and let's get to work.
Right. Yeah,
Alex,
exactly.
I love that quote, that idea, that little soundbite from hidden to open is essentially the process of creating trust. I'm going to give you officially the first air horn, which is which is only reserved for the few and the few and the precious and the special in life. I was also just going to add, and we'll get to it in a moment, but this idea of how much is too much, it's almost like, I don't know, I was thinking it's like a kind of a rubber band, like this concept of stretch, not snap. Don't you think? Like the idea is you need to stretch, but not snap. Does that sound like a good analogy, would you say?
I love it. Well, thank you. And it applies to, it really does apply to all aspects of our lives. And the idea of a continuum, I think, whether it's conflict or it's tension or it's flow state, from boredom to anxiety, and in between is flow. So these elements of this rubber band of our sort of days, our day, if we have no tension in our lives, if we're just staying in the comfort zone, we're missing a huge opportunity to move into our peak. And so it's a Yerkes Dodson law. It's 1908, so I didn't invent it, but it's a natural law, kind of like gravity is, that talks about the stretch to productive uses, but not snapping, and just if the rubber bands is sitting there, of course, it's not useful at all. So there's an art and a science to it, and sort of the middle of that is this bell curve that creates this higher level of performance. And so I take in this book, it's a fable, it's a continuation story of Get a Grip, which was the initial inspiration for me to come into this EOS community and into this world. So I'm completely thankful for Peyton and Gino for putting that book out into the world. But I took the same characters, Vic and Eileen, and it's 3 years later, they're running on EOS and things are going great, but they've got a little bit entitlement mentality in their workforce where the employees are a little bit comfortable. And so this book is about how to move employees out of entitlement and into earning or ownership mindset, from victim to owner, and without going over into fear, right? So it's a delicate blend there. So it was fun to write. And hopefully it inspires a ton of people and helps them on their EOS journey. So it's one way to proceed as you're trying to get that vision shared by everybody. That VTO, Vision Traction Organizer. If
you thought you were getting out of your third unique, you were wrong, by the way. I just felt like it was a good, you thought, but it was a good opportunity. And we will go back there, but I want to talk about this concept because I really love. I mean, first of all, as you were talking, I was thinking, this is the quick start in me, the creative in me. I feel like you almost need to create a, as the sands of time pass, these are the days of our lives, right? I think what you need is these are the rubber bands of our lives, because that's what you said. It's the rubber band of our lives. We're constantly trying to figure out how to stretch, how to maximize, being a maximizer, how to realize our potential, how to go far, but not too far. I really, really love this concept. So just, I tend to do that. I think
Can you
I think they
trademark
call it
rubber bands of our lives? We can trademark that perhaps.
already have bought the
Done.
URL, and and I will sell it to you for a reasonable price.
Done.
Alex, let's talk about this idea of a fable. Because
Okay.
I've just, with one of my clients, we've just finished our own journey through
Yeah.
I've just run a quarterly. They've read 4
Okay.
Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive, Patrick
Great.
Lencioni, another fable.
Yeah.
What is the power of, or what is the importance of using a fable in order to be able to essentially write a business or even an entrepreneurial book?
Yeah. Well, if you go back to that entrepreneurial mindset, when I was given Traction, which is not a fable, it's a great business book. I didn't read it, and it was sat there. It was visible on my bedside table. But Get a Grip came out, and I just devoured it in like 2 days. And it's dog-eared and highlighted and underlined, and I had a little glossary in the back of all these EOS terms and things. And I was fascinated with it, and then signed up for boot camp and on my way, right? So the fable sang to me because it was digestible and accessible, and I could see myself in Alan, who's the protagonist, or the guide, if you will. If you think about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the guide is a critical role in a hero's journey fable. Eileen, in this case, the letter I is the integrator, and Vic is the visionary, V. And you mentioned earlier, on the surface of the water, it looks very smooth, but underneath there's a lot of paddling like crazy. And that's Swan Services, their business, right? So you've got this sort of beautiful scene or environment with these great characters. And so the guide in Stretch Not Snap is Eddie Stevens. And he helps Eileen start to realize what she wants. She's the hero. She's the protector. She has the strength for 2. And together, she and Vic are trying to realize this untapped potential in their workforce. They want to get their employees out of entitlement. And there are villains and victims, if you think about Joseph Campbell, right? And so I did a lot of preparation in creating the fable so that these types of characters would be in there to challenge the idea of, Eileen, you shouldn't share so much financial information with your employees. They're going to want more money, and so I've heard that for 28 years or whatever I've been doing this. And it's pretty common for people to think that, but my experience is it's not true. When they start to realize, wow, we only do 7% profit, they start to think, well, how can we make it 8? And they start to think like owners, and they start to look throughout the business and inefficiencies and waste or missed opportunities to drive profitable sales, anything that'll start to drive increased profitability, which creates job security, reinvestments, and so forth, in addition to funding an incentive plan. And so Get a Grip, which is Peyton and Gino's fable following Traction, is taking Traction and putting it into fable form. And I think it speaks to sort of a little bit different audience. And that's where Stretch Not Snap is a fable version of ProfitWorks. And so ProfitWorks is kind of for the head, and Stretch Not Snap is for the heart. It's really about engaging those employees through sharing some business information about the company and how it makes money and cash and profit and what's the difference, and trying to help the reader understand how to do that effectively. Because ProfitWorks just kind of like hits, how do you design an incentive plan, which is great. But it's not just about the incentive plan. That's like 10% of the battle. So
I feel like such a doofus because I completely missed the analogy of the swan, the V for visionary, the I for integrator, completely over the top.
Oh my gosh, there are layers. There's so many layers to EOS, certainly, but the way Peyton's and Gino's brains work is just beautiful. So there's probably more in there that I haven't discovered, but over the last, 11 years that I've been doing this, I've come across these various little nuggets in there that like, oh, that blows my mind. So well thought out.
Yeah, no, as I said, totally missed that. Let's talk a little bit. And by the way, so now I'm thinking with Eddie, is that because of Steady Eddie? or am I now trying to read too much into it?
I was thinking Eddie Oliver Stevens, so EOS, and so it's I am so appreciative for what Gino put out to the world for us, and then what we've developed with this community of wonderful EOS implementers, and so it's a nod to this really strong foundation, impactful dent in the universe foundation is why Eddie has a casual feel to it as well. So I wanted him to be kind of flexible and nimble, but also really helpful for Eileen, kind of like a little guide, like Yoda, that she can kind of think out loud, and he can coach her on, incentive plan design or whatever it might be related to teaching the employees about the incentive plan and how to drive profitability. So that's what that is.
I'm rubber banding in my mind, and I want to come back to the analogy because I think it's just such a rich, beautiful one. But one of the things that I mean, I'm fascinated. I've always been fascinated, even years before my own EOS journey, in terms of employee engagement. In my fifth book, Built to Suck, I spoke about what I called talent resurrection. Little known fact about me is I always dreamt of writing a book, even when I came to the US in '97, and I was going to call it The Power Within, and the subhead was going to be, because when you take the employee out the equation, there is no equation. And then I was introduced later in my career to the concept of ESOPs, employee share-owned programs. Right. I'm fascinated by this idea of being able to share the wealth, be able to open up and give to get. There's a concept that you talk about, which absolutely I'd sunk my teeth into like a pit bull in a raw piece of meat, red meat, which is this idea of ownership thinkers. And to me, Alex, this is the essence. Are you creating an army, a culture of people who think and act like owners? And are you doing enough, to be able to nurture, to grow this ownership thinking, and then recognizing and rewarding? Because otherwise you're all dressed up with nowhere to go. So I would love to give you the stage to talk about this, what I think is a mission critical aspect of growing a business.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great question. And as you're talking, my brain's going in, like it always, 100 different directions. But so there's a message in incentive plans, like we're share the wealth or this kind of thing. And certainly moving from discretionary to more of a formula is a great way to build a simple incentive plan. Now, how it's paid out is interesting. And so not everybody necessarily gets the same amount, because it's not like socialism. I mean, the key element here, and it goes back to that bell curve, is that there is required performance. So a minimum threshold of profit that has to be achieved before the incentive will kick in. And that creates tension, right? A profit trigger, if you will. And that tension is balanced with support. So we're trying to pull people out of comfort zone, like, scorecards and rocks and all the different tools we use in EOS. Core values, a certain attention tool, certainly. And so that required achievement with support comes from the leaders in the organization. They have to be able to think like an owner as well. So my suggestion for an owner of an organization, an entrepreneur, is to start with your internal champions, perhaps your leadership team. Make sure that they really get what a P&L is and what gross margin is and net operating income, or all the EBITDA, or all the different jargon, right? Make sure your leadership team understands that, because they're going to be the champions of cascading this message to try to create ownership thinkers throughout the organization. And they have to do it, as we say, 7 times for people to hear it for the first time. So it has to become kind of the drum you beat, maybe in your quarterly state of the company meetings or your rallies or whatever it is in your organization. Teach a little bit, just reinforce that business literacy, because people forget after 89 days of what the heck, how do you calculate gross margin? Why is it gross? And so or what's gross about it, as we joke, but that is really important piece to this. And so the support comes from those leaders who say, you're given these tools, you're going to have information, which I think is a form of tension, because you can overshare on information and freak people out, move them to the right side of the bell curve where there's fear. Or if you don't share anything, you kind of leave them in the comfort zone where they're like mushrooms and they're not growing. And so there's a level of transparency that the leaders need to be comfortable talking about, teaching, and then try to drive the connection or the link between an activity-based measurable that perhaps is on a departmental scorecard to the company's gross margin or the company's net profit. And so that I find is a very weak link. And so it has to be reinforced more consistently. But so hopefully that makes sense in terms of trying to bridge the gap and get the whole, if you have 75 employees, thinking and acting like owners, and sharing in the upside and celebrating that, which is a big important piece of the book, Stretch Not Snap, too.
Yeah, I think you outlined what that continuum looks like. And there's always balance. And again, goes back to the idea of stretch, not snap. You also spoke about this idea, which I thought was a truly a brilliant idea of information as a form of tension. I've never heard that in my entire life, this idea of, and clearly, again, the idea is how much versus how little. And so I want to go back to the rubber band, to the elastic band, as we would have said in South Africa, which is when we are trying to stretch ourselves, when we are trying to be able to push boundaries and limits and determine if we can break through that ceiling. How do we know when we've gone too far? How do we know where the limit is? How do we know when we're in that danger zone where we might actually result in a snap?
Oh, it's a great question. I'll use myself as an example. So I occasionally, and perhaps my choices demonstrate, but there's some hyper achiever in me that feels like I'm not enough, right? And so I'm continuously, unfortunately, often saying yes to requests or to requests for help or whatever it might be. And I personally need to observe that, because if I over commit, I start to get toward that snap side of things. And things that'll show up in my life is I'm not sleeping well. My energy starts to deteriorate. My mindset gets a little bit like imposter syndrome kind of stuff, or I start to question whether I'm having any impact on anybody, or, so maybe it's fatigue, like mental energy is drained. And so when I notice that, and that requires, as you can imagine, just some emotional intelligence, just being aware of my limits, I can start to understand, okay, I need a like a compass. I need some kind of like anchor that allows me to know where my boundary is, that I can say no to that and yes to this. And so that's been a lot of work I've been doing on myself to start to pull back into, what we call personal core focus, right? Things that we really love to do and we're great at, and gets us into flow state more often, because we tend to have a much more positive impact I tend to have a lot more positive impact on a lot of people when I'm in flow state. So that helps me start to say, well, that's not going to get me in flow state. I'll say no to that, and so forth. So that's my example personally. And a lot of it, I think, is around fatigue and energy. So I really focus on sleep and, watching alcohol intake, which is certainly, a demon, and can lead to lots of bad decisions and so forth. So hopefully that's not too vulnerable, as you say.
No, you have not created any unnecessary tension. I just got a little bit anxious, thinking, thank God he said yes to me, because you could have been like, Joe, love you, man, but I'm going to have to say no to this one. But I'm hoping you're in flow state right now. I feel like we are in flow state.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just call back to Shine. One of Gino's and Rob's 10 disciplines is say no more often. I can't remember the exact wording they use. And they have sort of nuggets in there or suggestions on how to say no, so that it feels it feels good. You can still serve the person that's asking, even while you're saying the timing's not good for me. My plate is full or whatever it might be. So I really like that piece of it, is giving us some language for saying no. So that helped me.
Yeah, I feel that. And also, obviously, as you were talking, one of the tools that we teach is delegate and elevate. And I actually used it yesterday, which is I kept on hearing from the leadership team again and again and again, we don't have time, we're overloaded, we don't have time. I said, could you just stop doing the stuff that you hate and suck at? Could we start there? And then can we move to your personal, I love it, your personal core focus, your life force, the thing that gives you energy, and work from there. By the way, we got a comment earlier, which I think is actually, even though it was mentioned earlier, it kind of is interesting because Timothy Lynch said, love yes and also the work by Huma Aberdeen's work with both and, bringing improv thinking to cognitive dissonance. I'm thinking as well, by the way, for your next book, Alex, because again, you need to say yes more often. If there is a yes and, I think there is an interesting, I'm like making my own mental note. It's not a no but, it's maybe a no, it's a no and. It's a no, it's this idea where no can actually be powerful as opposed to, limiting or of a scarcity mindset, if you will.
Yeah. And you see back here, it says, do what you say, which is one of our core values. And the sort of the content behind that is when we say no more often, and we're very clear about the bright line between, if it's not a hell yes, it's got to be a hell no, right? Because otherwise you're in hell. It's like the Venn diagram. When we do say yes, they can count on us. We will absolutely do what we say, because they know our no's are authentic. They're pure. They're not, it's not personal. It's like we just have the same amount of time. So how I'm trying to use my time and balance that is different from others. And sometimes might be no for now, but let's talk in September or, whatever. So I think you're right. There is a sort of a tactful, artful way to not commit to something, but still leave the requester with a direction. And so
I like it.
It might be other guests or, whatever it might be.
Well, no one has said no to me. And when they do, I will hunt them down like the dogs they are. Even if they're hiding from me in outer space. You see what I just did there? I was able to.
What a segue! Oh my
I was
goodness.
able to bring it back because, and I have to say, this is all you gave me was see Earth from space. Here's what I found so interesting about you: why you are so cool and suave, and LA for me is you've got the helmet on, and yet you still are wearing your coaching suit. You don't even need a spacesuit. That's how cool you are. What does this mean that you can see Earth from space?
Well, in my lifetime, I intend on seeing Earth from space. And if I go way back, Joe, I got a telescope when I was like in, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade or something. And I remember just being fascinated with looking up at the stars and look at the moon and trying to, just think about all that. And I went to a birthday party, and they had a psychic there. It's a fortune teller or whatever. And I went in and she was like, you're going to go to space in your lifetime. And I was like, my mom must have told her that I got a telescope or something. But my mom was like, that's just what she said. She's, psychic. So it's always kind of been planted in my brain. And then you see like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin and SpaceX and all this stuff happening. And there's like, people getting passenger rides. And Carl Sagan has sent the telescope way out and kind of looked back at the pale blue dot. And my understanding is that the chemistry inside our brains changes, literally like reconfigures itself when an individual is able to see how sort of like we're tiny little, like we're just tiny little gnats on a blue ball. In that perspective, I think it just sort of gives me excitement, energy. I want to do it safely, of course. But when I was 40, I jumped out of a plane and loved it. A standing landing, which was fun. It was a tandem. And then I did it when I was 50 as well. And so, I tend to do that, maybe that George Bush thing on the decades, just jumping out of a plane and feeling that and seeing the earth and the perspective on it. And so it helps me kind of stay, I guess, at 30,000 feet more often, which is a help. So it's on my VTO, see Earth from space.
I've made it a 10-year target, but it's so funny how even in these this is why I love innovating and just creating and experimenting myself, because as a creator, because I can already see this EOS connection, and I think I can even hear whether it was Peyton or Gino in doing the Get a Grip presentation. It's this idea of elevating yourself, rise up, get, as you go higher into the sky, you look below, you see all the pieces and the parts and the people, they're becoming ants. You see the totality of your entire business, all the beautiful nuances, but also all the warts and the cracks. And it is the concept, right? What do we talk about? This idea of from being in, you cannot understand and be part of a system at the same time, moving from working in to on. That it all comes to light with this idea of Alex going into space.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that. And the idea of oneness. I mean, whether it's the Earth or going into an organization, and that VTO, that vision traction organizer, is one vision. It's for the organization. Yeah, the leadership team helped put it together. They're the tip of the spear, but how do we get everybody to rally around it and be like, how can I help? Or I see the link and here, I need more tools or training or whatever, so that they can all achieve that vision as one team, even if it's 750 people or 250 people or 12 people. The oneness, I think, is a beautiful piece of that tie-in. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. I'm thinking of, Freddie Mercury and Queen, One Vision, and I'm thinking of, Major Tom, and the soundtrack to your life is just unfolding. In the time we have left, I'm trying to ask everyone the same couple of key questions, which is ultimately, Alex, what kind of a coach are you? If you had to describe yourself, maybe with 3 different uniques, and how have you changed over the years as a coach?
Wow. Yeah, it's when I came into this, well, let me back up. Actually, I'll go back to 96. So my brother and I start ProfitWorks, and it is a grind. We're struggling to just get conversations, and it was fairly bleeding edge to share financial information with employees. And so people just they weren't that interested in what we were talking about. And so, but we kept at it. But what it built up in my brain, because I was kind of the outside sales and marketing guy, and my brother was kind of the backstage, ops finance type. And so we had a good kind of yin and yang there. But I was getting no a lot. And I built up a scarcity mentality. I got to get the sale. I got to get the next, I got to close this client. I gotta. And as you rapidly fast forward through ownership thinking and into EOS, I still had that. And I came into the community and is dog eat dog, and the pie is this big and I got to get my piece, versus starting to see that we can grow this pie much bigger, and the abundance mentality. So from a coaching perspective, trying to exhibit that, to model abundance for our clients and for the community, for entrepreneurs in general, to, as Rob says, to let go and just be sort of authentic. And so when I talk about LA, or I talk about James Dean, or I talk about other experiences that I'm pulling into the room, I am a collection of all these experiences, and I am an experience. And so what kind of coach am I? I'm fun, creative, but I'm also focused. And I make sure we're achieving the objectives when we're together. I love the entrepreneurial journey that our clients are on. And so I think that passion comes through for them. And so that we show up and the day just flies by. And, so I'm trying to be more observant as well, and less sort of like lost in the moment, because that you and I, as implementers, we have to kind of participate and facilitate at the same time. I'm genuinely curious. And so when I ask questions, I'll say things like, I truly don't know the answer, but why do we do this? Or, is there another way to kind of look at it? And so it's a piece where I'm bringing a lot of the input that I've brought from experiences, books, and one of my first strength finders is input. I love kind of learning and then seeing and connecting the dots like you do with our quick starts, and trying to bring that in as a different perspective for clients. So that's a big journey for me, from scarcity to abundance. The bell curve that I talked about, I'm going through it, that personal space, to pulling myself up to performance, but not so far that I snap. So I'm constantly, and you're never there, right? So the balance is like trying to recognize when I'm a little too far over to high tension, or whether it's not tense enough. And so just trying to keep that artful balance there for me with tension. And I think the modeling that we do for the clients is really important. High energy, and just showing up excited and ready to do the work, serving them and doing the right thing. So the core values that are behind me have become more richer for me and more real and deeper. I think there's just so many layers that I continue to sort of uncover as I think about and reflect on the journey to now. So
I love that, and the crowd are going wild. In talking to Rob and talking to you, what's the old saying is, you're a poet and you didn't even know it. When I asked Rob who he was, who are you, Rob? He said, I'm everything and I'm nothing. I am both living and dying at the same time. And you just said,
wow.
I'm a collection of experiences. I am an experience. And
I said that.
you did. I mean, it's, or the AI Alex said that. Alex Dean said that. James Freytag said that. It's beautiful. I mean, it really is. And we are ultimately work in progresses. And so that's the final question that I want to ask everyone, which is kind of looking back now on this journey, which is, and I assume you're hopefully at that midpoint. You're just getting started. What have you
Absolutely,
learned?
yeah.
What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about life? What have you learned about coaching?
Oh, that's great, Joe. I put this in Stretch Not Snap, and I have a note to the reader at the beginning that was really written from my heart, and then at the end I put sort of, how do you proceed from here? You just read this fable, like what's next? And so what I see in that book is, this is all about love. It's all about love. And so I see sharing with employees is loving them. And I see, incentive plans as it's a celebration mechanism. It's not the thing, it's a thing, it's a tool. And the oneness of your culture and all the different tools that you use as an entrepreneur to try to build a great culture with great people and great results is really serving people from the inside out. And so that's what I see is it's not about the money. It's really about it's the impact and the fulfillment and that sense of feeling like we are enough. And so I don't know if that directly answers the question, but that's how I feel. I actually put on the book, I put a little heart back here that's really important to me. And because this book was written from my heart, and I know I didn't do it alone, because a lot of the folks that knocked down barriers for me and set us up for success, set me up for success, contributed to this and came through me into this book. So anyway, this book is about me, and so hopefully it resonates with people, and they take some things and and can improve their lives or improve their organizations as well. So
nothing but love. Discover your employees' untapped potential. Create a company of ownership thinkers. Get your company's vision shared by all. And as I've been talking about, in fact, I even started off my quarterly talking about that. Hopefully the purity police will not be tracking me down. But I turned around and I said, you know, Gino wrote a piece. He said after 2,000 sessions and 14,000 hours of facilitation, coaching, he said there's one thing and only one thing that is responsible for success, and there isn't even a close second, and that is a strong leadership team. And then he came up with his 7 tenets, and number 7 is, you know, love. And and I have loved personally. It has been an honor and a privilege for you to be. I think it was meant to be. You were meant to be my coach. I have to ask you one question, as I put up a bunch of ways for people to just a little bit of self-deprecation, hesitation, imposter syndrome, etc. Is, what was your first impression of me, Alex? And did you think I would make the cut? Did you think I would last?
Oh, absolutely. Because you know what, I saw your Colby before I met you, and so in the back of my mind, I'm looking at those and not making judgments, but just making sort of mental notes. And so you didn't disappoint at all, Joe. You're going to continue to be wildly successful and have a huge impact on a lot of people. And your authenticity, your drive for helping people and adding value, and just like this podcast, your other podcasts, your books, and your coaching practice, which is rapidly growing. So I'm not surprised at all. Plus, you had a great coach, very humble.
Well, there you go, and you get the rim shot for that. Alex Freytag, as I call him, the coach's coach. If you want to find out more about him and his amazing work that he's doing, the books, the practice, if you are somehow fortunate enough to, in fact, you will connect with him, you will be influenced and helped by him, because he has produced little mini Alexes running around. One of them is called Joseph Jaffe, but his site is his mini site through EOS, eosworldwide.com/Alex-Freytag. You can, if you want a copy of Profit Works or Traction, contact one of us and we'll make sure one of these books finds their way to you. Please go out and buy Stretch, Not Snap. Create a self-funded incentive plan, end employee entitlement, because what we want, we want this ownership interest and ownership thinking, and get your vision shared by all. Find out more about Alex's company, Profit Works, at Stretch, Not Snap. Alex, it has been an absolute real pleasure, honestly, real pleasure to just continue building the relationship, the friendship. And every time I'm with you, I just learn just a little bit more.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and appreciate all your effort in this. And I look forward to our next encounter. It's always fun. Thank you.
As do I, and we'll be back with episode 4. Just follow and join the journey with me, with my guests. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
We're the ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.